Does talent matter at all? Okay. So before I get into that, who am I? My name's Gray. I live in Vancouver, Canada. I own my own place. I consistently make over six figures a year in digital marketing. I have a puppy dog. I have a double major in English literature and political science from Canadian University. That's who I am. More importantly, my passion has always been to be a novelist. I've written a book. Don't worry about it for now. I put over 20,000 hours into my dream. So let's back up for a bit. Does talent matter at all? So you probably think I already have an opinion on this because I decided to make a video of it. Yeah, so on this topic, I kind of think that talent doesn't matter as much as it used to. I think with the way the world's going, especially with the advent of, you know, the tech industry, in which it's just designed to give us these tools that kind of make a lot of talent obsolete. I really think we're going to be at a point where people with no high school diploma can potentially outperform PhD candidates in fields like um, astrophysics, anything. Because if you go into ChatGPT today, you can pull up a lot of really valuable information. You could write essays, anything. So it could be the great balancing. They talk about the death of credentials. That's the internet, right? Where people without real credentials get more of a voice, more of a platform than those who are, actually experts in their field. So this is dangerous, but then again, at the same time, what's going to happen is that the machine learning algorithms, the AIs that we entrust to perform a lot of these tasks for us, they will have to be the verifiers of what is right and what is wrong. Now, backing it up a little more, what do I think is actually the key to a successful life? And again, I'm no authority on a successful life. I'm just an average guy. I'm as average as they come. But just being a citizen of the world, it seems to me like confidence is probably the biggest indicator of a successful life. Because you'll look at somebody like Donald Trump, who is probably the most extreme example, but ever since he was young, he just had a lot of confidence. Right? He went into business. He was really lucky. He came from a rich family, the small one with $1 million, but he never would have had any actual success without, tooting his own horn. He actually created an entire image around doing so. Now, this is kind of a newer development in the worlds of business and marketing and everything, where they're kind of learning more and more about faking it until you make it. A good example of how this has changed is that in the 80s, I recently just watched a decent documentary about the Brat Pack. So in the 1980s, there was this group of young actors who were very successful: Molly Ringwald, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, and they were all in like their early 20s, quite young. And then they were termed by a journalist at the time that interviewed Emilio Estevez the Brat Pack. This was a play on the Rat Pack, which is a musical group that featured like Huey Lewis and a few like Frank Sinatra, a few people. So interestingly enough, the Brat Pack moniker really hurt their careers, but not because of anything that actually happened in society. Like, people weren't all of a sudden saying, "Oh, the Brat Pack, I'm not going to the movies." It hurt their careers because they kind of let it hurt their careers. Because nowadays, I feel like if this were to happen and you were to be labeled a part of a Brat Pack, or say you were part of a group that people knew, the Brat Pack at times, you could probably take that and run with it, right? Just lean into it. Like, how the Kardashians, take something super negative, make it positive. Just lean into anything, right? Because it doesn't really matter if it's good publicity or negative publicity. You can make it work, right? And so many people have built their careers on this, where anything negative happens, you can just lean into it and it works. But in the 1980s, we didn't know as much about marketing and business as we do today. There were also less channels to become famous, right? Hollywood was very controlled by an elite group back then because there was no social media. You couldn't just, monetize your brand on YouTube or something, right? People already knew who you were. So we've learned a lot over the past, I guess that's 40 years ago, because today the Brat Pack term, which actually was transferred over to Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, Ben Stiller, they kind of lean into it and embraced it in a way that in the 1980s they were like, no, it's really negative, kind of old establishment thinking. So going back to the purpose of this video, does talent matter that much? We're entering a phase where I think talent means less than it. And even if you look at the sports world, yes, talent matters a lot, but the best athletes, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Tom Brady, their mentality was that it was just very strong. That in a world where you get to a professional level where everyone is incredibly skilled in every sport, LeBron James, the deciding factor is your ability to not accept the fact that you can fail, right? To just believe to a point where you can literally see the future and force the future to bend to your will. Now, this is more important than actually being good at it. And I think, like I said, as technology gets more sophisticated, I just think confidence and charisma are going to be more important than being good at anything. And maybe this has always been the case. You look at leaders throughout the past 100 years. Being charismatic is the main reason that people get elected. Maybe politics is the worst example of that. Because if you're a good speaker, you convince people to do things. This is probably the most important skill. And the reason it's the most important skill is that humans, the reason that we're the number one predator on this planet, it's not because we're super smart or anything. It's because we can work together, right? Our ability to communicate and leverage different skill sets in different people has separated us from the pack. So if you're at the top of that pyramid where you can persuade large groups of people to do things, you could literally move mountains, right? So in that way, confidence, charisma, that's a skill that is more important than any other talent. Now, can you learn how to be confident? To be honest, I'm not a very confident person. I've just decided to start this YouTube channel because I'm kind of bored. My contracts through work are fine. I have a bit of money. I have a lot of time on my hands, and I just kind of like doing stuff like this. But I've never been really confident. I've always been like average success with women. Throughout life, I think everybody knows, especially with guys trying to date girls, or even reverse, like girls trying to get guys. The people that are the most successful in the dating world really love themselves, and a lot of the times it goes overboard where it's like, you know, people just full of themselves, right? Really cocky, which can be quite negative. But a lot of people respond well to it, right? I know that one of the biggest reasons a lot of women say they don't date a guy is they lack self belief. So self belief is the biggest factor towards having success, which is, if you think about it too, women are the choosers of which genetics get passed on, right? Historically, traditionally, men approach women, women kind of say yay or nay, and what's really going on is that women subconsciously or consciously, I don't know, I'm not a woman, a woman, but they are assessing a man's genes to be like, hey, is this going to be good for the herd, for the pack? Do they have what it takes to help us survive in the future, right? Like, will our kid, like, whether they're tall or short, smart or dumb, do they have the proper genetics to have success in the future? Now, one of the reasons why they say nice guys finish last is because nice guys typically aren't confident, and confidence is a very good the determining factor, however you want to say that, of what kind of person will be successful in the future. Because the most successful people have an immense self-belief. Look at all the biggest influencers in the world right now. Every single one of them has crazy self-belief to the point where it's a little bit sociopathological. But because they believe in themselves, they were able to navigate all the inevitable gulfs and failures that come with taking on any challenge, right? Because everyone, no matter who you are, you pursue a goal, you're going to hit barriers. Now, your ability to find success is determined how do you deal with those barriers. So if you don't really believe in yourself, you doubt yourself, you hit a barrier, it's not worth it. I'm not good enough. That's what happens to 90% of people. But the very confident who really believes in themselves and what they're doing, they'll figure a way to get over it, right? So that's why we're entering a phase where I think humanity is going to get more and more confident on an individual level as time goes on. That the gene pool, like we are entering a phase right now, population collapse. It's possible that as we have less babies, the only babies that will be born are of people that have immense self-belief and confidence, that the people who don't have a lot of confidence won't reproduce as much, both men and women. And again, I'm just going to back it up because the biggest determining factor in success is self-belief and confidence. It's more important than being good at anything, right? There's so many stories of brilliant people throughout history that just never made it. Like, they were brilliant mathematicians or whatnot, and they just didn't make it because they just didn't believe in themselves, which means that talent is less important than confidence. Anyway, I don't know. This is just a ramble. I just decided to turn this camera on. Just thinking about the election right now, thinking about which politicians, Kamala and Trump, obviously at the forefront of that. Both really confident people with a lot of self belief. Those are the kind of people that are ruling the world right now. You look at Elon Musk, Taylor Swift, Mr. Beast, everyone who has a giant following. When you put them on a camera, you're kind of whisked away by charisma. It's just like, holy shit, are these people even real? And I know you're saying, okay, Elon Musk isn't charismatic. When he speaks, he's pretty damn confident. He's kind of full of himself, especially written. I mean, he owns a whole social media platform that was kind of founded on his self-belief. I mean, the guy has immense self-belief and work ethic. I think his self-belief probably powers his work ethic, right? Because he believes so much that he's not going to take any breaks. Like, right, like say like you or I work on something that we're kind of unsure about our skill with it because we doubt ourselves a little bit. We're probably not going to put as much work in because we think, hey, what if this doesn't work out? Which kind of discourages you from just going at it like a raging bull. So if you have that self-belief, that confidence, you'll go at it endlessly. So it is kind of interesting picturing humanity 2 or 3 generations from now. Are we just going to live in some hedonistic landscape of people that just like truly like love themselves? Like it's just going to be a bunch of kind of assholes. But maybe it's just the way that the world works. They say like, nice guys, nice gals finish last. Maybe this is just evolution. I'm not really sure because it's going to be interesting. Say we do live in a future where it's only going to be incredibly confident people. That it's exclusively a bunch of humans that if they fail, they're like, I don't care, whatever. I have immense self-belief. What if there is something in humanity that we need people without self-belief to help us discover certain things, right? Because it's like you can't have a society exclusively of tall people. You do need short people to do certain tasks and whatnot. Sometimes people who aren't really physically gifted, they're going to be more mentally gifted, right? Because like, okay, I'm not a professional athlete, so it's going to force me into different industries where I can still contribute. So say if we only have a world of exclusively overconfident people, maybe the gap is filled by AI of like all the other people, the other gene pools of people that like aren't so confident, like the roles that they used to take. Maybe they'll be gone, filled by AI, so humanity can still kind of occupy the top of the food chain. This reminds me of the movie Idiocracy. Mike Judge, creator of King of the Hill and Beavis Butthead. Check it out. It is a really hilarious look at a world in which smart people don't reproduce and dumb people reproduce on a mass scale. Anyway, what do you think? Does talent matter at all? Anyway, I'm going to keep making videos. Love y'all. Thanks for taking the time. Peace out.